Hello. Well, we are firmly in August, although my head is actually in September, and not September 2025, September late 70s. That's where I am. Welcome to Table Talk. Yes, hello, welcome to this week's Table Talk. My name is Jason, this is Model Kit Stuff, and this is our little Saturday spot where we talk about everything that's going on. And there always seems to be lots going on. I never sit here and think, oh, I wonder what we're going to talk about. So yeah, maybe I'm just waffle a lot, I don't know. And you don't need to tell me. So here we are, a big welcome to you all, a massive welcome to the new subscribers. I've had a good number of subscribers this month, so thank you very much. So a big warm welcome especially to all my new members. I have several new members this week, which is really nice to see, of both levels, which is, you know, fabulous. People feeling like they want to connect with the channel. So membership, if you're considering it or not really aware of it, very briefly, I will do a video about it later this month, so that you can understand what you get back for that little outlay of money that you do each month to support the channel. And that's the main reason for doing it, supporting the channel, but in exchange I give you some bits and pieces. So we'll go through all that later in the month, but if you are considering it, if you're on a computer or a laptop, underneath this video, next to my little image and logo, there's a little button that says join. If you click on that, a box opens up and it explains what you get for the two different levels. So I've got two different levels currently. I am thinking about a third level, but I need to be clear in my mind whether I've got the time to do what I want to do with that. But I think that will probably something we launch maybe end of the year or something like that. I'm in no great rush to do that. In fact, I'm thinking of launching that level of membership with a particular build, but more about that nearer the time. If you're considering being a member, you can hit the join button. That doesn't mean you've joined, that means you're just looking and investigating. You can hit the little cross and come back out of it. So by all means, take a look and understand that. I will do a video explaining all later in the month. So a big welcome to all the members. What I will say though is if you've joined as a member and you've joined at the $4.99 a month level, then do drop me an email, modelkitstuff@gmail.com, with your YouTube name, and I will reply to you with the link to the social group Facebook page so that you can get involved in the conversations, the builds, and share what you're doing in there. That's the main perk, so you don't want to miss out on it. It's a great little group. Okay. So if you're a subscriber, a big welcome. Whether you're old and new, you know, it's great to see you all. Let's get on with the show, shall we? So as always, it's Wednesday lunchtime as I'm recording this, and depending on how we get on, I might finish it after or not. So Wednesday, that means that tomorrow is the day I pick my new car up, and then so we'll be doing something about that next week because one or two people have been asking, and basically when I was doing my research on what car I wanted next, and I think you're all aware that I've sort of been forced into making a decision because of my partner's health issues. I was probably maybe 12 months away from changing it naturally anyway. So I've done a bit of research into what is the best car for my needs, and I came to the conclusion that this was the right car, and so that's what I've ended up buying. So in that process, I did watch some YouTube videos of people presenting the car, albeit obviously older versions. I'm buying the 2025 version, which only went into production in May, so it's the newest of the new. And I'm watching all these, and it's quite interesting, all these sort of amateur people who are presenting it very much like it's been presented on Top Gear. So there's all these people that have watched Top Gear and then decided they're gonna do the same. And some people add humour in, some people are deadly serious, some people do it differently, you know, and all credit to them for being individual. So I thought it would be fun, just a bit tongue-in-cheek, to do it in a similar sort of way, but I'm going to show you why I chose this car from a modeller's point of view. So when you see that video come out, it is intentionally humorous, yeah? It's intentionally supposed to be funny, and it's going to be something along the lines of why all model builders should buy this car, something like that. I'd be interested to see how many people actually watch the video, but it's just going to be a laugh. I'm going to have a laugh with it. So that's coming up. I pick the car up tomorrow. I've got a day off, picking the car up, and then over the weekend I'll be trying to get my head around it. So that's the big thing that's happening for me this week, and sort of my key focus. You know, getting a new car is always a little bit exciting. But let's go back to what happened this week on the channel, and that starts again with Sunday. We had the second episode of Model Kit Other Stuff. I'm starting to be able to get my around those words a little bit easier now. So that came out on Sunday, and I can't remember what the content was. And the reason I can't remember what the content was is because I've just in the last couple of days edited episode 3 and uploaded that. So you've got a third one coming. We'll talk about that later, which I think some of you might be interested in. Okay, so that was Sunday, so that's members only. So next Sunday, when the next one comes out, last Sundays will become available to everyone, not just members. Okay, right, then on then on Monday we had the group builds update. I'm not going to labour on that because I laboured on it in the update, that was the point. But you are in the last month for your classic builds. It sounds like most of you have got that done and dusted. Some of you have got several done. I mean, there's some people who must be just living on caffeine tablets and never go to sleep, to be quite honest. We'll be talking about group builds a little bit more later on as well. So that then gets us to Friday, which is the day after tomorrow for me, but last night for you. And you will have had Junkers 7 come out on Friday. I'm not quite sure where that gets us up to. I think it gets us up to just starting to put the paint down. I sort of remember from editing it earlier this week. So I think you've got 1 or possibly 2 left over. I need to have a look at it and see how that's going to work, because we've got detail painting, decals, final construction, final reveal, final thoughts. So I don't know whether that's 1 or 2 videos. So yeah, so then you had the Junkers, and that gets you up to this week's table store. So there you go. That's what happened last week. There was nothing sort of major happened last week, other than I got a little bit more invested in the other stuff side of what's of the videos for the members. So let me show you what that looked like. So you will have noticed that the other stuff videos are a different format, and they're filmed on my iPhone. I have the latest generation iPhone, so it's fairly easy to do that with good quality, good resolution, reasonable sound. But I just wanted to upgrade that a little bit. The first thing that you will have noticed is that my fingers are getting in the way of the camera lens a little bit, so I'm sort of holding it with that one hand, especially if I'm moving something around, and my finger has a tendency to tip over the camera lens there a little bit. So that was an issue, and then there's other things that I want to do in the future, which is a little bit difficult when you're handheld. So I wanted to steady it, and I wanted to improve the light in certain circumstances, and I've got my thoughts on Telford here. So I bought some bits and pieces of equipment to help me with that. So first thing I bought is this. So you mount the phone in here, so that's adjustable. You lock your phone in, and it's a hand grip, so you can hold the phone a lot steadier, and I'm not doing that, so my fingers aren't in the way, and I can aim that, and I've got better control with it. So that's the first thing. So that's really handy. Excuse the pun. So we bought that, and it cost next to nothing really. The other good feature about this, let me just put this down, is it has a cold shoe at the top. So I've been able to purchase a little light. So light, I can change the colour of it slightly, the hue and that sort of stuff, and that will slide into, if I put it the right way around would help, that slides into that, so I can have the phone and I can have some illumination. So you imagine when I'm maybe filming or taking photographs at Telford, now I've got some illumination which is really going to highlight what I'm looking at. I mean, the light's not bad in Telford, but there are some dark areas. But also it means if I'm filming indoors and stuff like that, I've got better illumination. So that I think is going to be worth its weight. It's about eight quid, something like that. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So I think that's going to be really handy, and obviously you can face the camera either way on a phone, so I can switch from talking about something on a stand at a show, switch it around to my face, and then talk to you about what I think, and then switch it back to what I'm looking at. So gives me great flexibility, more stability, so that's what I'm looking for. So that was a purchase. Obviously we purchased the light. I also purchased a selfie stick. Now it's not quite a selfie stick, it's more like a tripod. So it does have this tripod end. Now the reason why I got this is I can set this on the floor, and this extends to a height higher than my current lamp and my current tripod when the camera's on, when it's over here. So this means I can do more flexible picture-in-picture video work. So particularly thinking about when I'm doing rigging. So I'll be able to film from over the top so you can see what I'm doing as I'm going in, and I'll be able to either get a better angle for you to see whilst I have a better angle at seeing for myself, because that's often an issue, you're trading one off against the other, or alternatively I can train in on what I'm doing with my fingers or what's happening with another part of the rigging, so that can all be shown at the same time. So that was my thought process, and this is quite extendable, but when you close the tripod up, I can hold it like that and my camera's out there, so I can walk and talk and have it trained on me. So like when the other day we did part of my walk, you know, I've got that option, and if I'm in the attic and that sort of stuff, I can film what's going on behind me whilst still filming me and as well. This also has a cold shoe fitting, which means I can also put my light on, and the light comes with 3 cold shoe fittings of its own, which means I can add a microphone if I wanted. It also means because of the, if I put the handle on my camera that you're watching this through now, that gives me a mount for my microphone and frees up my cold shoe. Currently my microphone's on the cold shoe, but if I free up the cold shoe, I can have both the microphone and the light when I'm videoing. So it might be in the winter when we're filming in here in the dark and we've just got the light on, that I can use that light to help illuminate me when I'm doing videos like this, talking to the camera. So that, I think, was a significant upgrade and gives us some flexibility going forward. And the selfie stick came with this Bluetooth controller. So the camera can be all the way up there, the phone can be all the way up there, and I can have this dangling off my wrist and just click it to switch it on, switch it off, switch it on, switch it off. So it's a bit limited. I can't do zoom or anything like that, but I can power the video to on and off with it. So that's quite handy as well. Okay, right, but it wasn't the only thing I bought. So far I've only ever used microphones that are wired. And my thought process here is, if I've got a phone at the end of my selfie stick, the microphone has got further and further away, therefore I might have an issue with you being able to hear what I say, particularly if it's a little bit breezy and we're outside or something like that. And you know, I'm going to be doing some filming when I'm on my holidays and that sort of stuff. So I bought a new microphone set, and I'm going to show you that. This is a wireless microphone, so I've not had that before. So this tiny little thing here connects into the USB-C port. So really small, really light. You know, it's not in the way at all. It's not bulky like some have seen. And then this is the microphone, although I've got 2 of these, so I can do an interview and have 2 people on microphone. Look how tiny that is. You see some people, they've got this great big dangly thing, a big box or something like that. This is genius, not just because of its size, and it does have a little, because that's the microphone right on the end, points upwards. I can shove a little fuzzy mop on the top for the wind. The genius thing about this is it doesn't attach with a clip. So most of the time you see these things and it's a clip on, so you're either pinching your shirt or you're putting it on your collar or where your buttons are or something, and it's never in the perfect position. It's sort of like the best position you can get, and you can clip it on. This is magnetic, so that I can get in my perfect position here, right in the middle, and then I just put the magnet in at the back, and there you go. It holds in place. I don't have to pinch anything, and it's not heavy, so it's not really dragging my clothes around too much. I don't have to have it on a collar or something. I can have it exactly where I want it. It's absolute genius. So yeah, little magnetic. I mean, it's the simplest of ideas, but often that's where you find the genius in design, isn't it? So I got that, so I'm really made up with that. So I think we're gonna that's gonna give me a really superior video this year when we film at Telford. So last year I filmed on one day and shopped on another day. This year what I'm planning to do is shop in the morning of the first day, then then in the afternoon go round and do some filming, you know, the crowds and what have you. I might even, if you bump into me in Telford, you know, if I bump into someone that I know, another YouTuber or something, I've got the opportunity there to just have a quick interview with them. You know, how's your show going? What's your impressions of the show? You know, that sort of stuff. So we might get some interviews in this year. I don't know. And then, you know, if you're a subscriber and you bump into me, quite happy to put you on camera if you want to. And then I can just film the atmosphere a little bit more, and then the following day is when I'll do all the photographs, take all those shots. This year I'm going to do them on my phone with the illumination, and we can then spend some time editing that together. And rather than rushing it out, we'll put it together, make a really nice video of it, almost like it's the official video of the show. That's my plan. Whether we pull it off, who knows, but it'll be fun trying, won't it? So that was my purchases some of my purchases that I made this week. So you know, we've really upped our game here in terms of what we can do. And although it's aimed at the other stuff, it is going to be helpful for the main channel stuff as well that everyone sees, so such as Telford. And I might well go to Stoke-on-Trent in August at the end of the month, because I'm on holiday that week anyway. So yeah. Okay, so that was something that happened this week as well. Now I've also got some other stuff in, so it's all nicely getting me to stash ads. So some little items added into the stash, and it's all about upgrading that Airfix Stalwart. So first thing is, there is a mask set available for it. It's quite basic, but it covers off all of your clear parts. It costs next to nothing. The die cut, so they're better than the Tamiya ones. And you can pick them up on eBay. I'm quite happy with them. It's just going to save me a little bit of time. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why do you need paint masks for those headlamps? Because they get covered up by a big solid green part and you're never going to see them. So what's the point even masking them off? You might as well paint them in. Well, the other purchase I got was some 3D printed parts for the Stalwart. So these also available on eBay from ITA3. I've got a third one coming, and then I'm going to do a short video on it, but I'll give you a bit of a pre-look here. So we've got one that's internal parts, so dashboard, radio sets, other electrical equipment, some of the handles and levers and bits and pieces like that. All very, very nicely done. Crisp, lovely 3D printed parts. And then there's an exterior one, and the exterior one, it gets rid of those horrid solid parts. So you can see just there, we've got nice grills that you can see through, and you can also see, where are we, there, replacement for that clear part. Instead of mesh, we've now got mesh, and new hatches, and some of the equipment like that terrible shovel and stuff like that replaced. Again, really nice. So I have one final thing coming, which was released after these, and as soon as I receive that, I will be doing a little video on all three, and then that gets me in a position where I can build that Stalwart whenever I want. I am going to wait a little longer and see what comes out in the way of photo etch. So there's little things like the tie downs, which would benefit from a bit of photo etch, and there might be one or two other details as well. As for the awful tarpaulin roof they made, I can make a replacement out of tissue. I've done that many times before, and they always look better than the plastic parts. But we can use it as a frame to get the shape right, and then we can make our own. So yeah, with all of that said, I think the aftermarket, it doubles the cost of your purchase. So you take a kit that in my view is overpriced because of how poorly designed it is, and then you add aftermarket that's coming up to about the same amount, actually a little bit more, and with the paint masks a little bit more again. So I will have paid more on the aftermarket than the original kit, and it will have pushed the value of my kit to around about 90 quid for that build plus consumables. So you have to think about it. Do you really want to do it? Now the Stalwart, it's a lovely looking vehicle, I remember it well, and it's interesting enough for me to have bought it for the channel. Well, the channel bought it, if that makes sense. If I didn't have a channel, I probably wouldn't have bothered, because it's not key interest enough for me. But anyway, we will be building it on the channel, and probably that's next year now. So yeah, okay, keep your eye out for that. But we will do a little video on that 3D printed stuff, so you can see what it's like and make a choice to buy into it or not, as the case may be. Right, okay, so that was the first thing I bought. It's not the only 3D printed things I bought, but I'm going to show you those in a minute when we talk about what's coming up. Before we do that, let's talk about what happened on the modelling bench. So on the modelling bench, my main focus was the Panzer 1 this weekend. I'm trying to get back into 1 week this model, 1 week that model, 1 week the next model. So we did Panzer 1, and we did some really interesting stuff because we started using the Tamiya enamels. Now the Tamiya enamels are like for like matches for the Tamiya acrylics. So the colours are the same, the colour reference numbers are the same. So if you want XF1, you can get acrylic or you can get enamel, basically, and the colour match to be identical. What I will say is I will be giving you my opinion of these paints when I finish the build. My initial thoughts, having started to use them, is I like them quite a bit. They are so far doing very well. One thing I don't like about them though is the size. These are just 10 mils. You're getting almost a third less than you get in a Humbrol pot for, but it's costing you more than a Humbrol pot. So they're not cheap. However, they so far are nicer. And here's a really interesting thing for those of you who are enamel phobics. I was painting in the morning, brush painting with this, and I had this out with odorless white spirits as my thinner, and my daughters and my partner were in and out of the kitchen, and not once did they comment on the smell. And I asked Paula later, could you detect that I was painting when you were coming in and out this morning making your breakfast? And she went, well, I could see you were, but no, there was no smell in the room or anything. So that's how far enamels have come. It was really nowhere near as whiffy as you might remember if you haven't used them since the 70s or 80s. And, you know, superior paints. So let me just show you what I've learnt so far. So I have given this 2 coats of paint, no primer, straight onto the grey plastic. It's gone down really well. I've got an airbrush finish with my wide brush. I mixed some paints together that mixed really well so that we could paint the exhaust silencer. I had some left over. I painted the inside of it because I wanted to do a scrub test. Now I've not done a scrub test yet, I've just done it with my finger, and you can't scrape it off. Again, no primer. We've painted the figure, again, no primer. Brush painted him completely black to start with, and then we've started doing the paint on top without doing a clear coat in between, as I want to see how it behaves. And so far my observation is the paints are slightly satin, but brush painting, particularly small brush painting, oh my gosh, they're good. They're so superior to the Tamiya acrylics, you wouldn't believe it. Then what we've done, you can see here, multiple parts. These have been primed in an acrylic primer, red-brown primer, similar, actually slightly dark, I always think, to the original colour they would have been primed in as real vehicles. So there you go. So I think slightly dark. I think it should have a bit more of an orange tone. It's Vallejo's red-brown. In fairness, they don't advertise it as a match. But I usually use this under German military vehicles. So the next thing we're going to be doing there is airbrushing with these paints on top of acrylic. See how that behaves. So that was done last weekend. I'm not going to be getting to it for a couple of weeks, so it'll be well hardened and dried off when I come to put it down. So that's sort of what we got up to on the bench. I did lay a few more planks on the Lady Eleanor. I won't show you that now. I'm just going to crack on with it. It's just, you know, there's not much to see really. I'm just cracking on with it. Any moment I can pick it up, I'm doing that. So yeah, I did also do a tiny amount on the Scharnhorst, but nothing major. We'll make this weekend Scharnhorst weekend and do more on the Scharnhorst this weekend, so we've got more material. We do now have material for another video, but I want to get ahead a little bit, so that's why we won't be doing anything on the Panzer one for a couple of weeks. Yeah, but it's coming together quite quickly. Everything is built up as far as I can ahead of painting. So it's paint, sub-assemblies, weather, which we're going to use the same enamel paints for, and final assembly. And then we've got the diorama base, which has now got I've brush painted it in black, then I've sprayed some primer on to give some tonal changes between the cobbles and the paving stones. So that's where we've got to with that. The rest of it will get pretty much brush painted, I think. We might airbrush the light grey of the paving stones. So when I was in Italy, paving stones were very, very pale grey, white grey. Quite like to emulate that a little bit, then give them a wash, and then have sort of grey red cobblestones. I think that'll look quite nice and contrast well against the dark grey of the tank, which we're modelling as sort of 1939 invasion or pre-invasion of Poland. So that's what we got up to on the bench, and next week we'll be doing more Lady Eleanor and Scharnhorst and giving the old Panzer one a break. But yeah, coming together really nicely. Right then, so before we get on to, well, no, let's talk about what's coming up next week. Then we'll talk about what I want to talk about, which leads into our sort of theme for this week, if you will. Okay, so next week, what have we got coming up? Sunday, Other Stuff 3. Wednesday, we have a first impressions of a wooden ship. It was a real pleasure filming it, so look out for that. Really, really nice kit. And then on Friday, we plan to have Junkers 8, which may or may not be the last one, I don't know. And then that'll get us back to Table Talk. So that's what's coming up in the week ahead. Yeah, And then we've got a change of plan going forward, because I'm looking at my original plan, and it always moves around, but my original plan for the following Monday is Matilda 1, and that's not going to happen, because I'm going to talk to you about that right now. So 2 weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, but I think 2, we were talking about the fact that we had the members only group build coming up. So the members only group build is called Wheelie Things, and it's going to focus on things with wheels. I have already put the rules up for the members in the social group. Don't worry if you're a member without access to the social group or have chosen for whatever reason not to join the social group. I will be putting out a little video, a members only video, so only members can see it, which will explain the rules a little bit nearer the time. Okay, I'm also going to be doing a members update video at some point, not sure. So yeah, I was saying we were going to do the Matildas and you know, 5 tanks, and I wasn't really overly concerned about it. And then good friend of the channel, long-term friend of the channel, Jeff Donahue, leaves a comment about good luck with the 5 builds at once, and the rest of the day that was bouncing around in my head. Yeah, I might need a bit of luck to get 5. Could be a bit of a challenge. Now in my head I've got 6 months to do it, but 6 months goes like that when you're building models. I mean, it just flies by. So I decided that perhaps I needed to rethink the plan. And then I thought about it, and then I decided I wanted to do something we've not done on the channel before. It's quite different modelling to other modelling that you do for various reasons, and we're going to talk about that now, and then that's going to lead into my theme stroke question for this week. So what I've decided to do is I don't want to rush the 2 Matildas. I want to do a nice job of them, because I'd like to display them together, as you know, on the same base. So you've got the Mark 1, the Mark 2. So I want to do a nice job of them, and I was the more I thought about it, the more I wondered, am I going to end up rushing this, because I've only got 6 months to build these 2 kits in addition to the mainstream stuff. And I came to the conclusion that I might not be doing myself any favours. So let's just talk about what's happening in September, because that'll lead in nicely. So in September, you all know this, we've talked about it loads, you've seen the trailer, I've worn the t-shirt, or we've even talked about how we're going to bring Peter Oxley around to my way of thinking. We are going to be starting this. So I aim to have the first video out on the 12th of September. I haven't really looked in the box since I did the first impressions of it and put my aftermarket stuff in here. So yeah, the annoying thing about this kit is all the paint instructions are printed on the box. But anyway, I mean, bizarre, but anyway. So this is what we're going to be tackling in September. This is the main build, and it's why I'm trying to get the Panzer 1 out of the way, because that comes next. And if I can get the Panzer 1 out of the way during August, I can start that during August, which means I've got some material for the final trailer and also for the first episode, which will be good. So yeah. Now, the last week of August, my birthday week, I'm off work, so I've got the ability to start filming some of this anyway, so I'm not overly worried about time. I still haven't decided in my head whether I'm doing red stripey or classic pod, but we will see. Anyway. So that's happening in September, and then on the 1st of September we have the Wheelie Things members only group build. So if I'm not going to build the 2 Matildas, I'm going to push those back into next year. So they will be a build that we do early in next year. So when we're ready for the next sort of vehicle build, that's what it'll be. So what am I going to build instead? Now I've got lots of options. I've got military vehicles. I've got a mini art digger I'm keen to get hold of. But I started thinking about this, the General Lee. I have not built a muscle car kit before. Okay. We've only ever built one 124 scale car on the channel before, and that was the ICM Model T Roadster, with which we put the additional figures in, and that was a fun build. That was 4 years ago, was it? Something like that, maybe a bit longer. So my thought process was, let's do this, because car modelling is quite different to any other modelling that we do on the channel. So you might be interested to see what I've done. Now, I have built cars before. Famously, I built one of only 3 builds you'll ever find on the internet of the Aurora Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It was only ever released once. It's never been re-released. I was given an unopened kit as a commission to build. So it'd been purchased for £500, that kit, in a box similar sort of size to this. So it was still factory sealed, and I got to rip the seal off, have a look inside, and build it, and put it on a website. So to my knowledge, at that time when I was building it, there was only 2 builds on the internet. There is now 3. Mine is the 3rd one. If you ever want to go and have a look at that, then just Google Aurora Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and it's the one on the D'Agostini page, and that is my build. So yeah, so I don't do cars very often. We have done cars on the channel. We've done a couple of 135 state cars, a Mercedes, and I can't remember what the other one was. Was it the Admiral Saloon? I think it might have been the Admiral Saloon. So we've done some smaller scale stuff. We've done old 124, but we've not done car, and it's been a long time since I've done a car kit like this. I did the ZZ Top Eliminator. I've done a 1956 Ford Thunderbird. But here's a little thing. The reason why we were talking last week about car restoration channels and that stuff is that I've always been interested in cars. And we haven't really done cars properly on here. So I thought it'd be nice to do something completely different. So it will be members only initially. So during the course of the 6 months of the group build, I will be doing build diaries on this, which will only be visible to members, and I'll be sharing little updates on the social group, but the main build diaries, as they come out, when they come out over that 6-month period, will be for members of the channel only. Once the group build is finished and the showcase has been done, and the showcase will be visible to everyone, then I will release the build diary series. So you will all get to see it, but members will see it months before anybody else. So why the pick this? There's your answer. It's the General Lee. It's my favourite car of all time. 1969 Dodge Charger. Now obviously in the TV series it's supposedly a 1969 Dodge Charger, and often was, but often they also used a 68. I don't think they ever used a 70. There are differences between them, and there is differences in the car that is the General Lee through the 7 seasons of the Dukes of Hazzard TV series. There are issues with this kit. There is issues with the box of this kit. I'll take you through that in a sec. but there is issues with the continuity within the TV show. So let me just take you through. I've been doing a little bit of research on what I know. So what I know about Dodge Chargers, I know a bit. They're my favourite of the muscle cars. I think they're really nice lines on it. Now obviously Dodge Chargers mainly had vinyl roofs, and this one doesn't, and that makes it a little bit unique. Now sometimes on the TV show you will see that there is the anodized aluminium strip going across here like that. That's where the join at the bottom of the vinyl, where the vinyl roof's been removed so they can paint the roof with the Confederate flag, and then and they've left it on. So sometimes it's on other vehicles it's removed. So sometimes it's on, sometimes it's not on. In the first 3 seasons, she has the bull bars at the front like that, narrow ones, but in all the rest of them has wider ones. And that's because they use the General Lees for shunting around some of the other vehicles. So they put the wider ones on to help them do that. So you get inconsistency there. That the kit supplies you with the first 3 seasons, the early version. But this kit came out originally before the TV series, so was amended to be a General Lee. So opportunity to sell more kits. And just to give you, these were chopped around. So every time they jump the General Lee in the show, they write it off. Okay, so they went through a minimum of 250. Actual numbers vary. You hear numbers between 250 and 350. But this chap here, who was in the show, who was only 18 when they were filming this at the start, he says that there was a minimum of 250. He couldn't give you a figure, but he knows there was a minimum of 250. And so they're all different. And what they would do is they'd write one off, and then they'd take the doors off it and swap that doors onto another one that they were going to use, so they didn't have to paint the doors. And the flag on the roof, they weren't painting. They were painting some of it on, but all the white lines, for example, was done with tape because it was quick, and they knew they were going to write it off. And they had a budget for purchasing the vehicle and making the modifications, so it's something like $1,300 per car. And they're writing off a minimum. There's 2 jumps in every episode, so there's a minimum of 2 cars written off for every episode over 7 seasons. So it's a lot of cars. And there's around about 17 or so still in existence that were on the show, that were jumped and written off. There's more police cars and stuff that are still about. Some of them are still in their written off condition, but owned and in yards. Some of them restored. And then there's tons and tons and tons of builds by fans of cars that look similar. So you can't say this is right and this is wrong when it comes to the General Lee. They have different steering wheels. They have, see the little side lamp there, it's included on the imagery of the box. It's on most of the General Lees, but not all of the General Lees. It's not on this kit, so I got to decide whether I'm going to scribe it on or not. And just to give you an example of how much chopping and changing around went on, because they didn't sell off the written off cars until a year after they'd stopped filming. Warner Brothers started selling them off. There is a season 7 General Lee that's a survivor, and it has the wide bull bars, and the bumper has weld points for the narrow bull bars, which means that a Series 7 car has got parts on it from a season 1, 2 or 3 car. So that's how they were chopping and changing it all around. So yeah, so I've got a little bit of freedom with what I'm going to do with this. I do have the correct Hemi orange paint for this, which is a lacquer. Not looking forward to that. It's 0 paints. I have used them before, didn't like them, but they had the right colour, the hemi-orange. So, yeah. Now then, there is an issue on this box. You see the issue with that image there. So it has an orange back end. Well, it never had an orange back end on the program. Actually, it did very fleetingly. They made a mistake, but that wasn't on the original series. It was on some follow-up series or remake, and they quickly realised their issue and corrected it. But you see it for a moment when they're closing the trunk. And there's all sorts of issues in the TV show. So it's supposed to be like a NASCAR. So the doors are welded up, which is why they go in through the windows. But there is an episode where you see not Bo, the other one, what was his name? I'm going to forget his name. I'm going to remember his name in a sec. Luke. When Luke gets in the car and shuts the door. So, you know, just forgot that he was supposed to have jumped in. So not all of the General Lees had their doors welded up, just a handful really. So it should be black. It should be black at the end. When the Dodge Charger was designed, the back end was visualized by the designer to be the back end of a space rocket. So this is a couple of years before you're walking on the moon. So he did it black, so like you've got the opening of a big exhaust of a rocket, and then you've got the red lights in it. So on the 68 they're round lights, so they look like thrusters lighting up, flame lighting up in this big black background. And then in the 69 you've got the rectangular lights that you've got on this. So you've got these big red strips, and it's supposed to look like the back end of a rocket flying through space, which I think is rather cool. So we will do it correct. There's some things missing in the kit, so there's no CB aerial on the boot as there should be. So yeah, there's one or two things we're going to correct, but that is going to be my Wheelie Things entry. And as you have just seen, my other 3D purchase this week was just a little something to complement it. I'm going to put it on a nice display stand, and it's going to have Luke Duke 3D printed figure leaning on the car, and Bo Duke leaning on the bonnet. So we'll get the exact arrangement at some point, but I got a couple of figures. It's just going to set it off. A little bit of a celebration. It's what, 46 years ago that this was on. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to building this. Partly because we've not done model kits are sort of model car kits are sort of a different breed of model kit, and they're also a different breed of modeler, I've found. So whilst I was looking into this, I started watching more model car focused only channels than I normally watch. And you know what? They're exactly the same type of person as the person that's restoring real full-size cars. So they've got this huge collection of cars, multiples of the same car, just like these restorers have got. They've got great big yards with these cars rotting away, and it's like stash ads. Got to have it, I might need it, I need the parts, or you know, and just like the real restorers, they're taking an engine out of this car and the diff off this car, and they're shoving it all together to build another car. And they're doing the same thing. They're getting bits out of different kits and aftermarket stuff and building it together. They're doing their own paint jobs and stuff like that. I found it really fascinating, and I was interested about you know, is there common approaches to building model cars? Because I don't do them very often, so I was interested, and there isn't. So, you know, you got someone saying the best way of doing the little anodized aluminium is to use bare metal foil. Well, I've got bare metal foil. Then you've got someone else saying I don't use bare metal foil because it looks too much like chrome and it's supposed to be anodized aluminium and it's not that shiny. so I paint them with this particular product. And then you got someone else saying, well, I always paint them first and then mask them off while I paint the rest of it. Same with the approach to painting the actual body shell. A lot of them are using rattle cans, which I won't use. A lot of them are using actual automotive paint, which for me is out of scale, because your flecks of a metal in there for the metallics is just wrong. But it seems to be quite a popular approach. You've got some people doing multiple layers, rubbing down, which is generally how I would do it, and other people who are doing a lot of prep and cleaning process and painting and then gloss coating and rubbing down the gloss coating, which I thought was quite interesting. So I might hybrid. So yeah, I've been following what they do, you know, super detailing engines. That hasn't really changed much over the years, other than you can buy pre-made stuff, but I'm not going to do that. I don't make car models often enough, but you get sucked into it a little bit, and I've been enjoying watching these model car channels and how they go about it. And there's one channel just focuses on muscle cars. That's all it does. I mean, I'm on the spectrum, so I can say this. Some people are clearly on the spectrum, you know. So to be just building the same cars over and over again, yeah, you've got to be on the spectrum to do that. But absolutely honing their skill and their craft, and stunning, beautiful models. So it's been really, really interesting cutting this back, and I've learnt stuff. So I've also been watching some Dukes of Hazzard facts videos, or listening to them in the background, which is why I know a little bit about it. And then this guy, Bo, he has his own YouTube channel, which is quite interesting. And he has his own General Lee that he's been building. So yeah, fascinating. He did a video, I posted it in the members area, where he talks you around the things that people get wrong when they build their own version of the General Lee. So I thought, well, if people get it wrong on the real cars, they might be getting it wrong on the models. So I'll watch that video. Really interesting. And it wasn't until the very end of the video that I realised who he was. And, you know, he could speak with authority because he was there. He was driving those cars. And apparently they had to teach him how to drive, because when he got the job, when he auditioned, he didn't drive. So, yeah, because he's from New York, not from the South. Anyway, that's what's going to be happening in September. I've got 6 months to build it, so I won't be interrupting Scharnhorst, for example. So we'll be back to doing bits on that as and when I can. It's not a huge build in terms of part count, but it is a large build in terms of cleanup, and I want to do a good job, and particularly want to spend a lot of time on the bodywork and the paint finish. That's the thing that makes it a car. So I do want to ensure that that ends up on my display case, because I bought this from the Scale Model Car channel 2 years ago now. We did a first impressions of it 2 years ago. If you want to see what's in it, go and see the first impressions playlist. And so this came from the US to me, and that was cheaper than trying to buy it in the UK. They're about 100 quid in the UK currently, these things, because they're ever popular. People don't let go of them when they've got them. So yeah, we're going to build it. We're going to make a good job of it. We will be putting the Confederate flag on the roof. I know that that's got some political question marks for some, but I'm not American. I do understand the connotations of it, but I'm very much, it's like the swastika, and anything else like that. I'm very much about historical accuracy. You can't hide the past, because then you don't learn for the future. And yeah, I'd like to do an early version which would have had flags on the back and as well. So there's a little sticker in the first season with a Confederate flag and a checkered flag behind the back window, but don't think I'm going to be able to get that. You can buy some decals for them, but they're stickers rather than decals, and it's meant for die cast. So I'm not sure it's the right thing to do. Anyway, we will be putting the flag on. We will be doing it proper. We will be doing some scratch building. And we will be making sure it goes on the display shelf. So that means it's got to be perfect. So we're going to be spending the time on it to get it right. And I can dip in and out of it over 6 months. So as long as I've got it done by the end of March, all good. Anyway, all of that watching these car model builders, it was kept posing a question about accuracy. So these people are chopping and changing and putting different engines in, making it not stock, making it a custom. So I also started picking up all this terminology. So they're doing that, and they're having a lot of fun doing that, and they can basically build any variety that they want. So they're basically building in miniature what I suspect they really wanted to do in real life but don't have the money. And they're having a huge amount of fun at the same time. You know, they've got their modelling shop is like a garage. You know, I've got all these parts and oh yeah, I've got this and I've got that. So that got me thinking, particularly because the other model that's I've been thinking about this week is the Vanguard's upcoming surprise model. So again, I posted this in the members area, but the guy that builds James that builds the prototypes, which also then relate into the pictures that go into the build manual. He always builds the prototypes on Model Ship World. Is it Model Ship World? I forget what it's called. And so I put that in the Facebook page that he just got the first parts to start building. So he's not got all the parts yet, but he's got the I think he's got the stuff to start building the hull, basically, which he will inevitably crack on with, and then I guess the other parts will catch up with him before he needs them. So he will be building that on there, and it gives you a good view of how that comes together. So I've been thinking about that, and there's a post on there about, you know, accuracy. HMS Surprise against HMS Surprise, the film version. So there's differences. The one in the film is shorter, and there's a comparison given by Chris between the actual Surprise and the Sphinx, which he's done a model of, and so the Sphinx is about the same size as the actual ship that was built. Well, it wasn't built for the film, but the film has used for the Surprise, and it's quite a bit shorter. And so you get this thing, and then there's a conversation about the stern galleries and how simple they are and whether they should have a little bit more detail, and how he'd been agonising over that. So on the one hand, you've got model car builders who are not worried. Well, they're either building with extreme accuracy, but they're not worried about changing things, swapping tyres, swapping wheels, making it a custom and doing their own thing. And then I thought about what's happening with Vanguard and that thought process with Surprise, because he's got the actual version, the book version, the film version, all different essentially. And how do you deliver that as a kit to an audience, the customer, who are all going to want to be different? I suspect most people will buy it wanting to build it like they've seen in the film. And Chris has said that much to me. That's his view as well. But there are people out there who are purists and will want the accuracy and will want to build the original Surprise. And there will be those people who are, and I'm probably more like this, a bit on the middle ground, who want to sort of be accurate to the actual ship but nod to the film, because I probably wouldn't have heard about the Surprise if it wasn't for the film. So, you know, I'm probably in there. So I will probably build the hull as accurate as I can to the actual ship, and I'm assuming that's what the model does anyway, but put the long guns on that are in the film, for example. So that got me thinking about how important is accuracy to you as a model builder, because for me it changes. So let me tell you where I am on it. Sometimes I want to build it accurate and I'm scratch building. So ships, still my first passion. That's where I tend to want to be accurate. And you've seen that on the Scharnhorst. You know, we've been doing a lot of scratch building, a lot of correcting, a lot of changing, just to get it close as possible to the actual ship within my ability. So some changes that I know need to be made we're leaving, others we're not. On other things, I know they're inaccurate, but I build them straight out of the box. And, you know, there's a whole spectrum in between there. So sometimes I want it to look accurate, and I don't care if it is too accurate or not, as long as it looks accurate. Other times I want to get really invested in it and I want it to look as accurate as possible. So when we did the Wingnut Wings Gota, that was just building that straight out of the box. I assumed they'd done their research and it was nice and accurate. So I wasn't doing lots of research around it. It was straight out of the box build. It was a splendid kit, still my favourite plastic kit I've built. You know, and I loved every minute of it, even though it had some challenges in there. It wasn't the best kit I've ever built. So I enjoyed that, but I hadn't researched the accuracy. And then there's other models that I will research the accuracy and I'll be making changes and so on. So, like the General Lee. So why is that? It's partly how invested I am in the subject matter. So, you know, if I'm building something that I'm passionate about, like this or this, I want to get it as accurate as I can. So I will scratch build and I will make amendments. If I'm building something like this, and I know a lot about it because my university dissertation was on German armament, you know, I want to try and make it as accurate as possible. That's one of the frustrations of that kit, is there's some minor inaccuracies that I would like to change, but I'm not going to. So it just depends on where I am. So I think for me, accuracy can be important, but doesn't have to be. And it was very interesting when I first started, over 20 years ago now, building wooden model ships. I started building some of the cheaper kits that have lots of generic parts that are shared across multiple different models. So cast metal doors, cast metal gun ports, and you know, that sort of stuff. So you had generic fittings, and it really messed with my head that they weren't detailing it. And I remember on my first build, I detailed a cannon. So the cannon itself was very basic. It had a little bit of metal that went over to pin the cannon down, and it wasn't photo etched, it was stamped out, and then you drove a pin in, you know, one of the brass pins that you use for planking, on both sides. So it was all massively over scale, and it was a cast metal barrel, and it wasn't particularly nice looking, and there was loads of flash seam line on it and stuff, so there was loads and loads of clean up, and I don't think it was particularly straight. This is the first cannon I ever built, but it did have a wood carriage, and I built up the wood carriage and I put the wheels on, and it looked like a toy. So I thought, right, I'm going to super detail it. So I did some research, and I was putting on the little hooks and eyes which hadn't been included, and you know, a lot of the stuff that you get on the Vanguard ones wasn't included on this, and so I super detailed it. I hung miniature photo etched chain off it, and it looked the bee's knees, and I spent a fortnight super detailing this cannon that was a yay big. And when I'd done it, and I put it there, and I looked at it, and I looked at the pile of parts next to it, I suddenly realised I've got another 40 of these to do. I can't do that 40 times. I mean, I didn't have the parts, didn't have enough photo etched cable, so I'd proved to myself that I could super detail it, but I suddenly realised I needed to have a different frame of mind for model shipbuilding. And so what very quickly happened as I started building some of the kits that I'd accumulated is I resigned myself to the fact that wooden model ships are more about a sort of giving you a general impression of what the ship might have looked like. And I sort of resigned myself to that. And then I built a Caldercraft one, and that was a lot more realistic and a lot more accurate. And Victory models, that's a lot more accurate as well. They're not perfect, and but not a million miles away like some of the kits I've been building. And so I went on a journey, and the reason why I like the Vanguard kits so much is because they are focused on the detail and accuracy as much as they can within that commercial framework, and actually being able to sell it. So that's why I like them so much. So it matters to me when I'm really interested in the subject. So tanks, I used to be super interested in them, and I used to super detail them. I'm not fussed anymore, so I don't tend to super detail tanks. Ships, I tend to go a little bit more to town depending on the subject. But if I really bought into the subject, such as the Eagle, which I've never built, and Dukes of Hazzard General Lee, which again I've never built, and it's my favourite car from one of my favourite shows that I remember as a kid. I was 10 when that was out. So yeah, I'm invested, and I want it to be accurate, and I want it to be on my shelf so I can look at it and go, yep, you won't find a better General Lee model than that. That's where I am with it. So that's how I work when it comes to accuracy and detail. But I'm interested to know whether that's important to you. And the reason why I particularly want to get your views on this is because this is going to be one of the subjects we talk about when we do the live stream with Peter. So Peter has sent me an email with a couple of suggestions. One I want to absolutely run with. The other one I'm less fussed about, and I will be telling Peter before this goes out. But then I want to expand it into this because it's the basis of so much conversation about whether a model kit is good or not is based on accuracy. So what's your view? Does accuracy matter to you? Are you happy to create that accuracy if it's not there? Is that something you enjoy? Do you prefer to just build out of the box, and as long as it roughly looks like it, who cares? Or are you like me, where it depends on the subject? Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Depends on your mood, depends on the subject. Let me know. I would love to know. So there we go. That's another table talk in the bag. You now know what's going on. We've changed what's happening with the wheelie things. August is going to be a really short month for me, and then suddenly we're in September and all this stuff's kicking off. So thank you very much for watching. Please, before you go, hit the like button. So few of you do. Even my members don't all hit the like button. So hit the like button and put a comment below and let me know what your thoughts are on accuracy, because I want to take that feedback into the live stream so we can make that a much richer chat when you guys are watching that. So thank you very much for your time. Until I next see you, you enjoy your modelling. It's the most important thing. And I think the last thing to say is you all come back now.